everyone, this is Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly. I wanted to do a video about all the books that I have bought so far in 2018, but it turned out there were a ton of them. So I split the video into two. So I already did one about all the classics and nonfiction books, and this is about all the novels. And between doing that video and this video, my little 6-month-old decided she wanted to wake up from her nap. So I guess she's going to be along for the ride during this video. And I have a lot of books, so I'm going to try to just do like a one-line kind of summary so that we don't have to keep going on about each book. And I separated them kind of by category so that we could kind of get through them all. So the first one is One True Loves, and this is about a woman who got married and then her husband disappears and then she moves on and starts to date somebody else, and then her husband comes back, and so kind of how she deals with having both of them and trying to figure out what she's going to do with that. And Again is a novel about a group of people who are given a miracle cure and are genetically perfect bodies, and how they deal with being themselves still in perfect bodies. The Red Notebook is about a man who finds a woman's purse and there's a notebook inside, and he is trying to use the contents in the notebook to try to find the person who the purse belonged to. Burial Rites is about, it's historical, and it is based on a woman who was the last woman beheaded in Iceland, I believe, and I think it takes place in the early 19th century. But I've heard a lot of recommendations that this is an excellent book. I don't know much about this book. I just happened to find it randomly online. It's called The Color of Our Sky, and it is about two girls in India that are from very different families, and it involves human trafficking, and that's all I really know, and it just sounded like it would be an important book to read. This is a book that I got for Christmas, actually, so it's only one of these novels that was before 2018, and my husband got it for me, though the tag said it was from this one. And the reason why he said that it was from our little one, even though she was like 1 month old at the time, is that her name is Eliza, and this is I, Eliza Hamilton, which is all about Eliza Hamilton, the wife of Alexander Hamilton, and I've always found her to be an amazing woman, and obviously I love her name since we named our little girl Eliza, so I'm excited to read about her. The next one also involves the name of one of my children. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? My older daughter is named Bernadette, and so that's the only reason I bought this book, because there's not a lot of Bernadettes out there, and there are people that have said they enjoyed this book, but I don't really know anything about it. I just liked that it had her name in it, so I wanted to check it out. The next one is The Enchanted, and this is about, it's about death row, but I don't really know anything else about it. I just know it seems like it's a little fantastical and about people that are in prison, which, going on that same theme, is The Green Mile by Stephen King, which is also about death row and gets a little fantastical. I've seen the movie a long time ago, but I never read the book, and my mom always said this was her favorite Stephen King, so I thought I would try it out. So now we're moving on to the sci-fi books. I have The Martian, which this was popular a little while ago, and everybody said it was really great, about a man who was stuck up on Mars, and I know the movie came out and I didn't see it, so I really want to read this book before I actually watch the movie. The next one is 5 to 1, and I think this is more like a dystopian, but this takes place in the future in India, and I guess there are 5 men to every woman, and so women are a high commodity, and I think it's written in verse, stuff like that. I've heard it's very interesting but short and easy to read, so thought I would check it out. The next one is The Rest of Us Just Live Here, which is about some regular average people that are living with people that have fantastical powers. So it's about the ordinary people. Next is Station 11, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and it recommended to me by both people on BookTube and people in my regular life, and it's about a group of performers traveling together in the future. So this is after, like, kind of the world has had some big calamity, so what happens after that. And then Starflight, which is a YA sci-fi, and I don't know much about it other than I think it's a little romance and action on a spaceship, and that's about all I know. And that moves us into kind of like the fantasy books. I got American Gods. I've read several of Neil Gaiman's books, but they've all been on the shorter side. So I kind of wanted to try this one out. This is the big one, and it's an urban fantasy. That's all I really know about it, but it's supposed to be really excellent, so I thought I'd give one of his bigger books a try. Next is A Great and Terrible Beauty. This is the first of a trilogy, and I wanted to check this out before I buy the other books. And it takes place in a boarding school, and I believe it involves the supernatural and a girl who has powers to attract them, and I don't know if she fights them, or I don't know. I don't really know anything else about it. And then The Kiss of Deception is also the first book in a trilogy, and it's really popular on BookTube, and about a girl who escapes her arranged marriage and the two men that are following after her, and we don't know which one is like the good guy and which one's the bad guy, I guess. Next is Magonia, which is about a girl who can't breathe. She has a lung disease, and how she gets taken away into a fantastical world where she can actually breathe again, and just kind of dealing with those issues. And I know that it has the next one came out, and so I wanted to check this out to see if I want to get the next one. This is The Great Hunt, which is also a duology. It's also about a girl who escapes an arranged marriage, I believe. It might not be. It might be about a hunt for a beast, but I think both of those themes are involved there. I don't know a lot about it. Sometimes I just go by what people recommend and hope that it turns out okay. And then the next two books are actually ones I've already read, but I didn't own them, so I wanted to, as I was at half price books, I just picked them up. And it is Poison Study and Fire Study. I still need Magic Study, but when I see one, I just got it. And I read these like probably 5 years ago. I don't know. Several years ago, and I don't really remember anything about them. So I thought I would give them another try and read them again. So next, I would like to do the thrillers. Sorry, there's a lot of books. I gotta like move them around. All right, and the first one is I Let You Go, which is about a woman who loses her son, and so it's involved her dealing with that, and then also the cops trying to figure out who the hit and run driver was that hit her son. And the next two are actually ones that are part of a series, and I bought the first one in the series. So the first one, what I have is Broken Harbor and The Likeness by Tana French. I also bought the first one in this Dublin Murder Squad series called In the Woods, and I've already read it, and I've actually already unhauled it. And I didn't dislike it. It was fine. I just have a tendency to only keep books that I rate at least a 4, because if I rate them lower than that, I'm probably never going to read them again, so I don't see any reason to clutter up my bookshelf with them. So I liked it enough that I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to read this one next, The Likeness. I just did not keep the first book, but I had bought it as part of this haul in the last 4 months. I just don't have it anymore to show you. The next one is The Secret History. This is like all over BookTube about being a good kind of mystery book about a man in college who gets kind of sucked into the elite society and the mystery that follows with that group. And this is kind of similar, If We Were Villains, which is about a Shakespeare company that is involved with a mystery, and then what happens kind of like 10 years later when things start to come up again. Are you getting fussy? Yeah? You're okay? I picked up Sharp Objects. I had read Gillian Flynn's other 2 books, Gone Girl and Dark Places, right? And so I don't know what this is about, but I liked her other 2. They were interesting, so I just thought I would round it out and read the next one. The next one, I actually got this recommendation from, I listened to the podcast Criminal, and they did an episode all about the woman who does the crime book review for the New York Times, and this is one of the ones on her list of like favorite ones for last year. And it's about a medical student who has Asperger's syndrome, and he thinks the cadaver that he's working on was murdered, and so kind of like figuring out how he can get that investigated. And the last of the mystery thrillers is The Woman in the Water, and this is a prequel to the Charles Linick series, which is one of my favorite mystery series. I never hear it talked about, but I found it a couple years ago, and I am just in love with it. It's like very British, and it takes place in the 1800s, and I just like love it. And so I've read about, I think, 7 of them, and so this takes place before the other ones. And then I have a couple middle grade, just 2 of them. One is Furthermore, and I don't really know anything about this, but it seemed like a really kind of cute, like, fantasy, and I really like middle grade fantasy, so I thought I would check it out. And the last one is Forsborn, which is the last of the book in the Books of Bayern, and I own all the other ones, so I thought I would get this one too, so that I could have the whole series. And then the last section is all my YA books, and some of them might fit into some of the other categories, but I just have know they're all YA. And the first one is Tell Me Three Things, and I don't know anything about this story, but I read What to Say Next by Julie Buxbaum a couple months ago, and I loved it, so I thought I would check out some more of her books and see if it was as good. And the next one is Shuffle and Repeat, and this is about two high school students that end up on a carpool together, and they've always kind of hated each other, and of course, you know, probably hate turns to love or something like that, so I thought it'd be a cute little story. Yeah, are you going to be good for the camera? Are you going to be good for the camera? What do you think? Next is Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, and I don't know any specifics about the story of this. I just know, since it's kind of everywhere, that it's about a gay teen and how his kind of coming out story happens. And the next one is Letters to the Lost, and this is about a girl who writes letters to her mother who has died, and she leaves them at the cemetery, and one day they get answered, and so kind of like what happens then between her and the boy who's decided to answer them. She just keeps throwing her pacifier on the floor, so she wants me to pick up, but I'm not going to. The next one is First We Are Four, and all I know is that it's about 4 friends in a secret society. Written in the Stars is about a girl who is supposed to be married off in an arranged marriage, but she's in love with somebody else. And like how she figures out to balance her family and her love for someone else. The next one is The Weight of Feathers. I don't know anything about the story about this, but I've heard that Anna Marie McLemore writes magical realism, and I really like magical realism, so I thought I would check her out to see if she could be a new magical realism author for me. The next one is Rose Under Fire, which is about a woman who is a fighter pilot and gets captured by Nazis and put in a concentration camp. The Smell of Other People's Houses. I just know this takes place in Alaska and involves 4 different people and how their lives intermingle there, and I really like Alaska and stories about that, so I thought I would check it out. The next 2 are both by Marcus Zuzak. First, The Book Thief, which is about a girl who steals books to keep them from being burned by the Nazis, and I've heard it's excellent from everybody that has ever read it that talks about it. The other one by him is I Am the Messenger, which I've already read this, and this is about a man who, in his 20s, who's kind of going nowhere, and he starts getting these playing cards, sending him off to do different tasks, and that's really all you want to know to start it out. Next one is The Start of Me and You. This is about a girl whose first boyfriend died, and it's kind of the story of how she decides to get back out there in life again after dealing with that tragedy. And then the last book is First and Then, which I don't know anything about. It was just a cute little cover. I just know it's a contemporary romance and thought it would be cute. So that's all for me. I said if you read or watched my other video about all the classics and nonfiction, I said that when I buy all these books that I want to donate $1 to a literacy charity or an education charity for every book that I buy this year. And so if you combine these books with the other books from the video, and woo, it is almost $60, so I'm going to go ahead and just give $60. I think it's like $58. So I went around it, and I'm going to give $60 to ELCA World Hunger. And if you want to look down below, I'll show you the link to that charity. And they deal with all types of things: clean water, education, healthcare, microloans, all those things for communities in order to eradicate hunger. And if you know of any other charities that involve education or literacy, I would love to hear about others, because then I would like to give to different charities next time. All right, thanks. Bye.